All right. Well, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to a quick LinkedIn Live from the Nuage team. I'm joined by Ranga Bodla, VP of Field and Industry Marketing at NetSuite Oracle. We're going to have him dive through a couple elements as it relates to SuiteWorld extracting value. But as we talk through maximizing ROI, I do think that SuiteWorld is going to be an incredible resource for you all with hidden value in your tech investments. I'm your host, Ranga Bodla. Today we'll be tackling an event that's part of the fabric of the NetSuite ecosystem. Ranga, we're just talking. Sorry about that. Just talking about the notion of how we've been at SuiteWorld for almost 10 plus years each, which is pretty fantastic. I personally missed the San Jose days, but we'll enjoy Vegas at its best. But SuiteWorld's coming up October 6th through the 9th in Vegas. It's also on air. We'll be talking a little bit about that today. I do want to start with just a quick story. So last year at SuiteWorld, we worked with a CFO. He uncovered close to $50,000 in annual value, not by buying something new, but by finally fixing a problem that had been costing their team 20 to 30 hours of manual rework every month. Bank errors reconciliation is the name of the game for a lot of folks. Their finance staff have been wrestling with complex payment recs, banking errors, and every month mismatched transactions triggered hours of manual cleanup and rekeying. At SuiteWorld, they sat down with the NetSuite experts. We'll talk about the NetSuite experts who are available to you all. Tremendous resource. They show them how to configure automated payment reconciliation workflows, a feature they had already owned, but they just weren't leveraging. We'll go through a couple sessions today on where we both think ROI is readily available. I think there's going to be some huge announcements that everybody should be pretty excited for. Even Mr. Worldwide will be joining us. But to help us, create our treasure map, we do have our special guest. I'll stop talking. Ranga is here to share his deep industry perspective on navigating SuiteWorld, for maximum impact. Ranga, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Louis. Glad to be here and glad to, of course, have the conversation for those that are in the audience today. Louis, it's SuiteWorld is an amazing conference. I'm always struck by just how expansive the conference is, how much there is to absorb. I do miss a little bit of the San Jose days, but it was always also a lot smaller, and the company was a lot different back then. But I think probably the biggest thing I would just start off and make the comment is, if you've never been to SuiteWorld, one thing I would tell you to start off with, make sure you got some really, really good shoes that you feel really comfortable with. Don't wear don't go for the fashion, go for the fit, because you're going to need it. You're going to be moving around a lot to a lot of different areas, and make sure you're comfortable. Get your water bottle, get your good shoes, and be prepared for a really busy couple of days, because the folks that really go to SuiteWorld and have a plan, have a map, really think about how am I going to maximize this event. They're the ones that really get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, I would agree. The little layer of carpet is not as forgiving as you would think in the expo hall. But jumping into the story, and from your perspective, how common it is for companies to be sitting on unlocked potential within NetSuite. What would you say is the biggest mistake you see when people make when they're first open in that huge NetSuite? I'm sorry, when they first open that huge SuiteWorld session catalog.
Yeah, I mean, look, the catalog, it's hard to, there's a lot there. And obviously we're trying to make sure we maximize. I mean, there's just so much content, and we try to make sure we provide you different ways to filter it and look at it. But, maybe let's start with your question of how common is it for companies to be sitting on unlocked potential? Yeah, I would say, first of all, it is pretty common. The reality is NetSuite's a really powerful, it's a very deep product. I myself have been with the company now for 15 years, or the organization, since we're just part of Oracle. But what I see is the most successful NetSuite companies, they use NetSuite, in multiple parts of their organization. They're leveraging really automate processes, they're improving their productivity, they're finding areas of pain and saying, you know what, I bet you NetSuite has a solution here, or their partners have a solution here. How can I go and figure that out? And when you come to the session catalog, you kind of look at it and you're like, oh man, how do I navigate this? And I would say, before you open that session catalog, before you even touch the session catalog, really think about, what's my main goal for SuiteWorld? Now, some companies send one person, some people send 2 or 3 or 4, it just depends on the organization. But think about, for you, what is the most important thing that I want to get away from SuiteWorld? Am I hoping to learn about new products and features? Am I really trying to dig in deeper into my industry? Maybe I want to be more hands-on with certain features. The last few years, and I can say this from very firsthand experience, because I work on the content all up the SuiteWorld. No, I don't get a lot of sleep. But the last few years, we've spent a ton of effort in creating lots of ways for people to get information. So what's different about NetSuite or SuiteWorld this year versus what it was when we were back in San Jose in 2015 is there's so many different ways in which we're now delivering the content. So there's spotlight sessions that are on the expo floor. If you're really just trying to, like, you know what, I want to hear the latest I don't want to call it a sales pitch, but I do really want to just get like the new information. Those spotlight sessions are great. They give you the quick snapshot of a new product area. I can get it. I don't have, it's not really like hey, how do I use this product? If I'm really trying to get hands-on, I want to learn how to do workflows better. I want to learn how to do save searches better. I want to learn how to do analytics. There are workshops, and they're limited. There's limited capacity. And so you got to get in on those workshops. You got to get there. This is outside of pre-training. Just, they're taught by instructors. They're great. Can't say anything enough good things about them. And there's all the breakout sessions where you're trying to, you can get into actual hands-on. How can I use these things? How can I leverage them? And you can navigate. When you go into the session catalog, you can navigate by those different session types and see those. I would also tell you, if you go to the website, on the homepage, there's curated guides. So like there's a curated guide for AI, there's a curated guide for CFO or finance. We really focus a lot of energy, not just in the industries, but in the roles, because we know that there's some of the best users in NetSuite are the admins. Like, these people are, I love our admin audience, because they're the unspoken heroes of every NetSuite implementation. Is these admins that they're in the day-to-day of NetSuite. They understand it. They love it. They sometimes cry, but they, at the end of the day, they're the ones that make it all work and sing. And they're admin guides. There are guides for sales, for marketing, and those guides we spend a lot of time and effort on those. So those are great ways to kind of get a starting point on it. You can also leverage the themes as another way, like, you're trying to, and again, look, everybody has to kind of look at it from their view and what's really their goal and have that. So you can use that audience filter, you can use the industry filter, you can use those different elements to kind of really build out what's going to be best for you, and then, really add them. One big thing, when you look at over the years, we've kind of changed this with the breakout sessions. There's no longer like, you got to register for a breakout session. You register for the workshops, you're either in or out. But with the breakout sessions, you're putting it on your list, and then it's like when you get to SuiteWorld, if they hit capacity, they close the room. But it's really more to give you that indication. So as you're thinking about that, like, you're not really having to sign up for it, or like you're closing off room. And we really tried to change that over the years to really make sure that people feel like, if you register tomorrow, that you still got sessions that you can get into and you have availability onto it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, if you are going to SuiteWorld, really following almost like a veteran's use of a 3-touch strategy. So I would say your goal going to this conference isn't to collect 200 plus business cards. Really one of the benefits of SuiteWorld is you have the ability to talk to not only experts in your field, but some of the engineers, some of the creator solution architects who built these modules within NetSuite. So you got to find those product managers, for the modules you use. They're easy to talk to. I'd say NetSuite, more than any other conference I've been to, is more welcoming to end users than I've ever witnessed. But in the same vein, just the networking, you'd be shocked just sitting at a table at lunch. And sometimes we see the little clusters of everybody from one company sitting together, not talking to anybody else. Terrible mistake. Divide and conquer, sitting at a table and talking to other power users to understand what they're using, how they're doing things is an incredible resource to you. And then I think also just looking at the exhibitors, there are so many potential partners who can take your NetSuite experience to the next level. Whether you've got certain problems you're trying to solve, all the sessions as you covered, going up to those individuals, creating one-on-one relationships and talking to them in the future is, I think, one of the benefits of SuiteWorld, better than most conferences we've covered. I wanted to ask, as far as being surgical, any keywords or session types that an attendee should be searching for when they're looking to build out their agenda?
Yeah, and I think it really, if you've got you're like really trying to find out, how do I do workflows, for example, you can search on that. Really search using that audience filter. That's a really big one because if you're finance or you're an admin, like we really dial in on the audience as a big thing that might be there. And then of course, like if where you're, I mean, everybody's thinking about AI right now. We've got a number of AI sessions.
A lot of sessions on AI. Yeah.
There's AI in a lot of different topics, but there are a lot of AI forward sessions alone. There's analytics. I think again, you can, the keywords are really going to come back to what you're trying to get to. And I think you said about the session types, this is where I think the difference between the spotlight sessions versus the breakout sessions. If you're really trying to just like, I really want to find out, maybe some new functionality or new modules. Yeah, I heard about this NSAR thing. What is it? I want to kind of get some more background. Spotlight session's a perfect one for you. On the other hand, you've already bought NSAR. You're trying to dig in. You want to meet the people that know how to use it. Those breakout sessions are a very different opportunity there that you're gonna see. So that's when I think about session types, that's a really important one to get.
Yeah, and I think this SuiteWorld, more than any others, of course, AI is the name of the game for everyone right now. We talked to a lot of customers, a lot of prospects alike, who are not necessarily sure what the capabilities of NetSuite with AI are just quite yet because it's so new. So I do think, from a preliminary standpoint, you need to be having those conversations, doing your research before you jump into these sessions, because to Ranga's point, there's 15 different ways you can go at SuiteWorld as it relates to AI.
Absolutely. And there's sessions. There's a SuiteFlow session on AI. There's a generative AI with Prompt Studio. There's a whole thing around MCP, which has become my favorite new thing. I'm super excited about that because that's here today, and it's like, people are just going gangbusters on that. There's stuff around agents. There's going to be stuff around dashboards, customer records. You name it. There's workbooks. All of those are all going to be big ones that are there. And there's industry specific tracks too. Yeah. Manufacturing, distribution, retail, that we've had over the years as well.
We've kind of covered all the treasure map here and industry specific. I'm brand new to SuiteWorld. How in the world do I even prioritize my time without going to the Sligo party, the Sphere party, and deal with a nasty hangover the next day with sore feet?
So the keynotes, I have to tell you, are really critical. They are always fun, but the keynotes also are really important to give you perspective on getting to see customers. Every single keynote has customers on stage, and they're really talking about their business. We're working on the customer keynote right now. I know there's some great folks that are going to be speaking on that. Seeing seeing the keynotes is extremely powerful. You got to make sure that that's part of your agenda. There are also a number of customer breakout sessions, where the customers are actually presenting. Hey, like Bird Rock Brands is presenting like how they're doing things, or Faherty is presenting how they're doing things. Those are really powerful because you get to see how your peers are using it. It's a good way to get perspective. And as Louis brought up earlier, it's a good way to be like, when you see them present afterwards, you can go up to them and be like, hey, hey, can I just grab a picture of your card? Can we follow up afterwards? The thing that what you want to be able to walk away with from SuiteWorld is, you've made some connections that you can talk to later, because that's what I find is people go to the event and they find people either in their industry or they find NetSuite folks or whatever, and they follow up with them, not immediately, but I've had customers reach out to me. They're like, hey, I talked to you last year. I don't know if you remember me, but I ran into this issue, but I don't know who to talk to. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And, of course I'm going to help and figure that out. And that's something I see all the time. And it's a great way to go about it. And then the last thing, we have this gigantic learning lab at SuiteWorld. It's something that we started a few years ago and it's sort of expanded over time. But if you got to make sure it's a priority to get over to the learning lab, because they've got all the CS experts, they got Suite gurus, they've got a bunch of these different resources that you're like, hey, you know what? I have this problem. I really need to talk to somebody that can help me with that very specifically. You're probably going to find somebody in the learning lab that's going to be able to help you. And it's a great way to make sure that, so if you're your first time there, got to get over to the learning lab. It is.
I would agree. You cannot skip the learning lab. That is the easiest way to expert-free consulting that you're ever going to get by the best of the best. I do want to shift for the folks who are not able to make SuiteWorld. Do you mind sharing a little bit about On Air? On Air, it seems very rich in content this year.
Yeah, we've been really focused with On Air. Now, On Air, you can go and you can sign up. You get to see the keynotes. You can go and attend those keynotes. You won't get to see Pitbull, I'm sorry, with On Air, but you will get. There's a number of different sessions that are there. One thing that people like, we've kind of gone back and forth over the years, but there are different sessions for On Air than there are for the in-person. So we don't take like the in-person sessions other than the keynotes, which we do stream live. But the actual breakout sessions and things like that, we don't, there's stuff that's there at the conference to maximize the in-person experience. And then On Air is really for that virtual audience, so they can get access to content that they need. And there's a ton of sessions. It's been very rich this year in terms of the amount of content that's out there. And again, it's really focused on that notion of like, hey, either I'm trying to just get a sense of like some of these new product areas, or it's like going into some detail on something that I want to get some detail hands-on about what people are doing. There aren't really hands-on workshops in On Air because of the medium and the time and all of that. But there is it is really powerful from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I just to reflect everything you just shared. I mean, On Air, there's from strategies for scaling to unprecedented value with the likes of Causey AI to Faherty doing an EDI presentation to getting more out of NetSuite CRM. Those sections, I think there's 70 plus sections for On Air. So it's, even if you can't make it, time well spent over the course of that week. And we are kind of wrapping things up, as we cover kind of SuiteWorld and what to do after the fact. We see a lot of shiny toys as system admins, as consultants alike. Any suggestions for prioritizing everything you learn, everything you've gathered from SuiteWorld, and what to do with it, and who you should be speaking with within your NetSuite ecosystem to find some immediate impact after the fact?
Yeah, I think whatever I always tell people, when you come back to your goals, really think about like, what are like the one or two things that I'm hoping to be able to come back on Monday and start implementing immediately. And again, that might be some kind of new reporting. It might be a suite flow. It might be something that's going to help reduce reduce pain or improve my productivity. I think that's a really critical one to focus on. The other piece I was going to make a point to, Louis, is if you're not able to join, which we hope we can see you, we hope that you sign up for On Air, but even after SuiteWorld, we don't end at SuiteWorld. Like there are a number of we've been really investing in these learning labs after SuiteWorld. And so, depending on where you are, whether you're in Chicago or New York or Florida or San Francisco, we're coming around the country over time here to deliver on that. And so it's a good way to use it as a way, like you go to SuiteWorld, you kind of tag a few things, and then you can go to these learning labs too, and you'll get to see some of those same industry folks again, or sorry, education folks again. And it's like, hey, you know what? I saw this at SuiteWorld, and maybe I could talk about that. There are some great resources at those events as well. That if you're unable to make it and you miss out on that experience, not all is lost. There's still plenty of things to go and do.
No, I would completely agree. And kudos to NetSuite for continuing to deliver value outside of just SuiteWorld. But it's an awesome event, and hopefully you all found value today. And also share in San Jose, it wasn't just like a little convention center. We took over the entire town. So from a scale perspective, it's bigger, but it's still a tight knit community. But with that, again, thank you for the time. If anybody has any questions, we'll make sure we share contact information. Feel free to reach out, and we hope everybody has a great day. Ranga,
Awesome.
thank you again. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you, Louis.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.